All right, getting into it. All right, getting into it. So, all right, so hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Just going to do a quick voice check here. All right. Everything looks good. And we're back for more fun action on this character, this Stormtrooper that I'm working on. And, you know, just to kind of go over the reference. Let me just pull up my high poly. So if you're just coming into this, I've created a high poly version here. Let me turn on my human. There we go. And yeah, so this is a metahuman. This is straight, like right out of metahuman. So this suit will go right onto a metahuman basically in Unreal Engine 5. And all of these pieces here have been created, all of the armor pieces have been created in ZBrush, blocked out in Maya, and then sculpted and booleaned in ZBrush. So yeah, this is kind of the look around real quick on that. And honestly, a lot of this has been done. I think what's left over is this knee piece, this hand piece here, and then back here, some of these little pieces. But other than that, I think that all the low poly is ready. If we show the low poly, you can kind of see right where you want it. Just you can kind of see the low poly poking through. That's going to make for a great normals projection. And I'll do some material IDs too with some of these, like this one, for example. Doesn't make sense to make this, you know, all those pieces. So you just do one low poly here, and then use material IDs in something like Substance Painter or Mari to create all the details and that come from the high res. So I typically like to get the parts that I'm working on in the reference and pull those up just to kind of have an idea of what, you know, what it looks like, you know, on the real model. We got some of these hand pieces. Hopefully I have a better one than that. Yeah, right here. Nice. I think that's besides the other one I just showed, I think this is the only one. But you know, it's pretty much clear, I think, for that. And then the other pieces are going to be in the back. Back here. And I've already done a couple of these, this one and this one, but I need to do this piece in the middle here. And then maybe these brackets too. I have to look how I want to deal with that. But yeah, this isn't going to be too tricky. And then just this knee piece here, you can see that it's like the belt up here, but smaller version. So I guess let's get to it. I think maybe do the hand piece first. It's pretty straightforward, I think. So I'm gonna just jump to that real quick. Get my reference right here. Beautiful. All right. So yeah, just select that piece. Get at it. You know, every time I every time I do retopo, I just try to think like, what's the easiest, fastest way to do this? Like, I'm not trying to do it like, you know, because it's not going to deform. I don't need like insanely good topology. I just need it so it makes sense. And so what I mean, like, you know, there can be triangles in it. It's not a big deal. This is not going to deform. So I think something like this might even just be fine to use the Maya's Quadra tool. But yeah, I think that'll be fine for this piece. But if I want to get really crazy about it, I can do patch modeling with NURBS, which I typically like to do because you can get equal spacing with, instead of, you know, using quad draw, making this live and just quad drawing geometry on here, and see like this is this width and this is that width and this one's even smaller width, and that's cool. I can go through and space these out, but it's kind of time consuming. So what I like to do is avoid complexity later down the line, at least. And I'm going to pull up some panes here. I'm just going to switch my Maya to show the different version of it real quick here, so I can show you the panels that I'm pulling up. So this is the other version. All right. So now I'm just going to pull up a whole bunch of panels. So I'm going to go down to modify and convert, and then just pull this off. And I'm going to, for now, just hide the reference. And then what else am I going to use? I'm going to use the display NURBS, and then rip off this panel here. And then I'm going to rip off the NURBS creation here. So that should start us off. I'll probably get more out, but that's a good start. And let's start with an EP curve. An EP curve, you can, it's just basically from point A to point B, and you can designate whether you want that to be, you know, 1 degree or 3-degree, 2-degree kind of curve. But in this case, I'm just going to say 3-degree, and I'm going to put one point here, or here, and just hit enter. And I'm just going to kind of build a parameter of curves, this kind of patch modeling style here. And it'll make sense soon. So for this one, since this is an arc, I'm going to go ahead and use the CV curve tool. And I've got this decimated polygon or polymesh here live, so I can just put the points on there. So let's go ahead and start doing that. I'm going to reverse that. Okay, just fewer points. And then I'm going to pull those out. I may end up redoing that. Yeah, I am going to redo that. Something like that. So now I have these two curves here, and I'm going to go ahead and show on my panel here. I'm going to show the CVs so we can see what we're looking at. And I want to divide this into let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 different sections. And so I want to make this, let's say 8 different spans. So right now it's 9. So I'm going to rebuild that. So go up to curve and curves, and then rebuild in the option box. And I'm gonna, right now I'm just gonna designate how many spans I want. I want 8. So it's just gonna rebuild it. Oh, it built as a 1 degree. I want to do it 3 degree. So there's 3. Cool. And actually I'm gonna do maybe 16. Give it some more. Yeah. Okay. And then this, I'm going to rebuild to 16. So now if I loft those, we've got the equal amount of divisions. And I want to change some of these points just to kind of doesn't have to be totally curved and perfect, because I'm going to break these up anyway, but I'm just trying to get these points 1, 2, 3, 4 just kind of generally at these divisions, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So okay, so now I'm gonna take these points and just, you can do this 2 ways. You can loft it and then break it, or you can break the curves and do it that way too. I think I'm just gonna break the curves. So I'm gonna go to the curves menu and detach it. There. Oh, I have to grab, I'm sorry, I have to grab the edit point. So grab the edit point right there. And then detach. Do the same, grab the edit point over here and detach. And then grab the edit point here and do the same thing. And I'll hit G to repeat. All right, and so then we're gonna go here, do the same thing. All right. And then each one of these should be 4 roughly, but I'm just gonna rebuild them, I guess, just to kind of even it out. And do the same thing here. Just rebuild all of them. So now if I loft these, press G to repeat. Got that. And now oops. And you could totally keep them together if you wanted. You didn't have to break them up, but for me it's just, I know right where that's going to come out, and it just makes it kind of easier, I feel like. So that's just me. But I'm just going to take those 4 pieces, and then I'm going to take, I actually have this tool here that I found online, and I highly recommend it. It's called the Marvelous Designer Retopo tool. And frankly, I just use it for shortcuts a lot of times. I'm not going to use it to do any Marvelous Designer stuff, but what's great about it is that it has some really helpful options on here, like reversing the surfaces if you needed to. Let me see if I can, but one of the caveats to it is that, just remember, you have to these have to be in a NURBS surfaces group, I think it is. So let me just go here. I can't remember actually. I'm just gonna convert it to polygons, and that works pretty well. But it has to be in here, and there has to be a naming convention. But look up this tool anyway if you haven't used it. It's called the Marvelous Designer Retopo tool, and I don't remember the artist's name, but he had created it, and it's really cool. And I'm just looking at some of this. There's some weird thing happening here. It could be because of some normal stuff. Yeah, I just unsoftened the normals. And I'm just cleaning up some of this stuff. And I'm just counting to make sure. I have 16, yep, there's 16 loops there. And so let's bring back that piece. And right now I'm just gonna take all those curves and delete them. I'm going to take all these lofted pieces and delete them. I'm going to take this geometry and throw it out of that group. And then I'm just going to take everything. I'm going to hit D on my keyboard, and then it gives me the move pivot option. I'm going to left click here or anywhere on the surface to get the orientation correct, perpendicular to the surface, and then I'm going to snap it. So now it's right on top of it. So now you can just you can take this curve and you can bring it down, or you can extrude this out. There's different ways of handling this, but I think I'm gonna just duplicate this curve, this edge. So I'm gonna go to the convert and then go to polygon edges to curves. And let me make sure, is this it's probably 1 degree, yeah it is. It'll work, I think that'll be fine. And I've got that piece, and then I'm gonna just grab my curve tool again. And then I'm going to rebuild this to 4. Build this to 4. And then I got to think, how do I want this geometry to go out? I guess it's the edge loops would go straight out this way, and then try to keep that loop going around just right here. So create just trying to think if it's best to do this with the using 4 different using a rail system, or just, I think I'm just going to use the curve system here. Rebuild that. So now if I loft that, I loft this, got these curves, or these surfaces, and then I use my handy tool here and just convert them, bring them together, harden. That tool adds some extra loops in there, so I just get rid of them. Take a look here. I think this might be actually reversed. So, I have 2-sided lighting on. I think that's the problem. So let's harden it. Yep, those have to be reversed. So I'm going to select those and go up to Mesh Display and go to Reverse Normals. So now it should smooth out. And you know, that could be a problem why I had that issue earlier. Let me take a look. Yeah, look at that. Curses. Okay, so easy fix. Just grab them all and reverse them. And there you go. So now I've got those pieces. I'm going to just bring them together. The nice thing about using curves to do this, as opposed to using just quad draw or another retopo tool, is that you just get this really nice topology that just lays great, like perfectly on the mesh, the high poly mesh. And you know, there'll be some tweaking and everything, but overall it's a pretty quick process. So for here, I might just break away, show less hidden. Because ideally I want it to go, I want, you know, this edge to come down this way, I think. So this is where bringing out quad draw and just kind of seeing how things go can work out too. I think that's it. I'll just create a curve. You know what? I'll create an EP curve. And then just go from here to there. And I'm going to make this 4. Take this, and see if I can loft it well. It's pretty tight right up here, but we'll see. All right, yeah. I think it worked. And you can go to your surfaces and reverse the direction of that surface. But like I said, this tool here has it all right there, which is nice, but it does have to be in a group and kind of gets annoying. Yeah. I have to think about this topology here. I'm not sure I really am digging it. I could take a edge right through here, or I could put a point right here. Or I could do something even different than that. So for now, I'm just going to convert to polygons. Oops, there we go. Convert to polygons. And why is it not doing that? Oh, I think it went to its convert to poly. Yep, went in here. See, this is what I was talking about, the groups. Okay, so show selected. And I'll just turn on the wireframe for a second here. It's not bad, the edge flow here, but this up here is not good. I'm going to think about that for a second. All right, so in the meantime, while I'm thinking about how I want to handle that geo, I'm going to just merge those for now. Because it would be better to have this coming around probably, but it's going to shrink this from 4 to 3. So I'll show you what I mean. So now we have it coming around, and that's cool, but now this is a lower geometry kind of thing, but could be okay. And I can increase more geometry here, which I may just do. So let me show my poly. Do a little trick here so it snaps, and then come in here. And while you're trying to like get this straightened out, you can just delete those and then just pull this through. And I think ideally this is going to be the corner we want up there. Oh. Let's keep this corner actually. All right, so I'm going to start to kind of smooth this out. And hold shift to kind of smooth this out. Oh, before I do that, I'm going to disconnect this. So now that I separated these pieces here, and I like to do that because it doesn't mess up any of the perimeters. And you can freeze things, but it's too much trouble. So I'm just keep that there. And I'm trying to go low poly, but not too low. It's always a balancing act to get this to read well. You know, you want it to not be faceted too much, but also not be too heavy. So something like that I think is good. All right, moving along. So now it's the same kind of thing here. And what I'll end up doing is, like, I think this is the most tricky part right here. And the rest are pretty just rectangles. A little bit of, well, there's some curve happening here. It will be similar to this, I guess, but these two pieces will be pretty straightforward. All right, so just I'm gonna do the same thing. Take these 4 edges and then go to polygon edge to curve, convert that from a 1 degree to 3 degree, and then make a new curve. Right about there. And then rebuild that so it's equal. And when you're rebuilding, you're just you're spacing out those CVs to be equal in space. So if I just hide this and turn, you can see that there's equal space between them. There's not like 2 points right next to each other. But yeah, so it will all make sense. So just another curve and then another curve down here. And because this is well, I'll just do an EP curve because you can always just come in and when you convert this to geometry, you can move the vertices independently. So I'm gonna, this is just 2 points right now. So I'm gonna make it 4 spans. And take all this stuff. And I just want to hide that. And then take this. And the reason I have this is just so I can see, you know, the CVs or edit points if I need to. It just makes it easier to see. And so I'm going to take these 2 rails, these curves, and loft them. And then there we go. Reverse it and convert to polygons, which it ends up hiding every time. All right, and then hide unselected. I'm just going to clean this up, get rid of those. There we go. Now if I turn on quad draw, I can just ever so slightly bump these up here to the edge. Like so. All right. And then the next thing is pretty much the same. You just work my way through here, and then because these will be the same, they should be at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Well, I'll just add another. And this is kind of a nice trick. You can split this and then go to your inputs section here under the split. And then I'll change that split to multi. And then change the divisions. It's always one more, I think. So it's going to be So I hit 4 and it does 5. So I need to do 3. And that should give me 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Let's delete these extra surfaces I'm not using anymore. So if we just show the geometry now, this is what we got. Oh, it's funny. It's 5. It's not 4, and that's why, you know, it's good to take a moment and look at if something needs to be adjusted before you go too far. So I'm going to do 4 divisions, and now I've got my funny. It's 6. Okay, so add another one. There we go. So now I've got my 6 and 6, which is good. Looks good. And I might be able to lessen this geometry, but I'll do it later once I get these other pieces going. Right now it's kind of like a puzzle. You're just trying to match up points and try to solve how you can get something to connect to the other thing. And every once in a while also smooth something out with just a smooth preview, just to see if, you know, by pressing 3 on the keyboard, and that will just tell me if that's retaining that curve good enough or if it needs to be more. But in this case, that's a pretty hard edge. It would need to go more, but I think it'll be fine for our purposes. So let me just bring those together. I'm going to combine them. So now it's just one piece. I'm always, you'll see me always going up to my history here. I've got a button under my shelf, and I just always am clearing out my history. And I'm always saving too. So all right, so moving on, showing the last hand piece here. And so I need to connect, I need to fill in this section here, and then this will be the last one, and then it should be pretty straightforward to extrude this out. And the bottom isn't a big deal since it's against the hand, but we'll go ahead and continue on as before. And so I'll just go ahead and select the edges here, the 4 edges, and then polygon edges to curve. I'm going to take my EP curve, and then I'm going to rebuild that to 4 spans. So I've got this curve, and I've got this curve. I'll just show the CVs. And so this curve, I'm going to rebuild them just, yeah, this was a 1 degree. Now they're both 3 degree. So now that's good, but I also need to create a curve down here. So go to the CV curve tool. Clean that up a little bit. And then I'm gonna rebuild that. Just like that. I'm just gonna do this one too, since I'm here. Again, polygon edge to curve. Hide selected. And then this kind of patch modeling is just so great, in my opinion. it's just easy to control instead of trying to point by point, you know, go and use the quad draw tool. I mean, that definitely has its place. I use the quad draw tool all the time, but it's just easier to come back later with the quad draw tool after you've done the patch modeling. So for this piece, because there's a curve here, I'm just going to go, actually I'm going to go, I think I want to do the EP, so I'm going to go from here to here because I need to build in that curve. And yeah, figure that out once I start bridging some of this stuff. So I've got these two. I'll loft them. I'm going to hit G to repeat. And I'm just going to blow up my history. So these things don't have any history on them. I'm going to take these pieces and I'm going to convert to polys. Blow out the history. Hide unselected. Looks good. And then I'm going to clean out some of these edges that don't need to be there. So, and this, it goes for these things too. Nice. All right. So now we need to start working on bridging these things together, and then kind of, this is where quad draw comes in handy. Actually gonna make that so it's not live. Select all this stuff and then hide unselected. I'm gonna clean up some of this stuff. It's just getting kind of heavy with a lot of junk. So this that can be combined. Clear out the history. I'm just gonna throw that over there for a second. Just kind of blow away all this stuff. All right. Zero them out and it's back to where it should be. And then these have to be the same number of edges. So like this is 6 and this is only 3. So I'm gonna go ahead and select these. Yeah. And then so I split those and then again just go up to the input, split ring, and then choose multi. And then for this it's going to be 6, so it's always 1 less for this split ring tool. So now it's equal. All right, I'm just going to blow these away for a second. Same thing with this. And I do need more edges in here because right now I have 16. So there's 16 faces and edges. So for now I'm just going to blow those away and then I'm going to go ahead and merge this stuff together. But first I'm going to show the high poly model, make it live, and then start to clean some of these things up with the quad draw. Because, you know, some of this is too straight and needs to have some curvature to it. And if it's not, like, I can kind of see, like, all the way down the line, it's too far away. It's just easier, instead of going like this, I don't know, for me, it's just easier to select all of these edges, delete them. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but for me, it just seems easier to delete them and then pull this over. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. And then I'll come in and add those extra divisions. And so for this, I need to kind of figure out what am I going to do with this curve right here. So I have some of these edges that I might be able to use. I could do something kind of similar, which I think would be okay. Something like that. It's not the most clean. You know, ideally you have it coming around, so let's think about that. How am I gonna do that? Something like this, it's coming around. And then I have auto weld off, but let me turn it on. I want to keep this number of 6 going up, so I need to kind of figure this out real quick. Like this maybe. Not really thrilled with that. Got 1, 2, 3, 4. And I might actually give one more loop there, like that. So what I'll do is just bring this over and then add some extra geometry, and I'll take out one up there. Like this. It's always like a equation to figure these things out. So I'm going to take these out and got this. Kind of smooth these out. Get rid of that one. All right. So I'm going to get rid of this one. So now we have that edge going this way. It's still coming along, following through here. Like that. Nice. Okay, so next is just kind of connecting these all up. So I'm going to clear out these and make sure over here everything is nice and close to each other. And once I get all these things kind of where I want them, I'm going to add some divisions in here to match up with the 6 divisions here. And then I'll likely need to have some more divisions here coming up here, but it's getting kind of heavy. I might reduce it. And you can terminate some, because well, it actually might have a curvature to it, and you want to be careful when you use triangles because it can artifact. Let me take a look real quick here. I'm pretty sure that this is not, yeah, I don't think this is a completely flat surface. You can always put like a blend on here, new material. And, oops, I thought I'd put a blend. New material, blend. And then you can crank up. I like to crank up the sheen and see like what's. I have some, definitely have some curvature happening here. So there you go. You can kind of see there's it's kind of darker here, but highlight here. That means it's got a little bit of a curve. So you want to be careful when you're putting triangles on curves. So for now, I'm just gonna go back to just the regular shaded. Show less hidden. Make this live. Or is it already live? Yeah. Okay. Now it's still live underneath there. It's just you don't see it. This is where the fine tuning kind of comes in. And then edges like this too, we want to fine tune. So I'll go into quad draw mode. You can see it better. And something like that, you can see like this piece here as a continuous curve. It's coming from here and then it's just kind of flowing down to this side. So you want to maintain that with your new topology. So if I have, you know, something like this, then that's breaking that flowing curve. So you just want to make sure that this is further away than this, and this is further away than this. And all right, randomly click on this. Well, welcome to the 3D modeling adventure here. We're modeling a Stormtrooper, so thanks for tuning in. And just to kind of show what we're modeling here, we're showing a 3D model of a Stormtrooper and how to create this Stormtrooper 3D. So I'm gonna try to get all these points to just kind of flow and just be kind of cognizant of that as and it's, some of them are pretty subtle, but you still want to have that curve going. See, like here, it's kind of going the opposite. So try to keep that. And you know, when I'm done, I'll snap some of this together and it will throw this off, but I try to get it right at first, and then if it gets wonky again, I can come back and fix it. But so at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and divide these into 6 different divisions. Let's pull this one over first. And can do that. Take RGO and just gonna hide that other piece here. And going to create a division, and I'm going to do it for these 3 different ones here. And so under the inputs, we're going to go to relative and then multi-cut, and then I'm going to change the divisions. There's 3 different ones here, so I think this is the first one we did, so it's got to be 6 different divisions. And same thing with this one. Multi-cut, 6 different divisions, and then this third one. This already has 2 divisions, so let's go ahead and just make it 4. So now we should be able to bridge all this stuff properly. Like this. Oops. So I'm just shift clicking and then double clicking. So shift select one edge and then holding shift double click till it on the very last edge, and then shift click and then holding shift double click. And so now all those edges are combined. So now I need to combine this, and we're nearly there, but I'm kind of not loving that so much. There's so much geometry here. But I think it will be okay. I could simplify it just by coming in here and just blowing away some of this stuff basically. And then I can simplify that up there. Actually, I won't have to. It will have enough. The only thing is it's going to be tricky right here. But let's give it a shot. So now it's nicer, lower poly. And so for here, I've got these three here, and then these three here. And then for this, I'm just gonna cut right here and redo this surface right there. So now it's just a nicer cut there. Like that. And then for this, we can kind of clear out some of those. But before I do that, I'm gonna move this over a little bit. Right there. And then put another one right. Actually, I'm just gonna take this point and cut it right there. All right, so now blow this away and this one. Perfect. And then we're gonna bridge this stuff here. And then we wanna bridge this point here that I just cut with the cut tool. And then I'm gonna take that cut tool again and just kind of make some new geo up here. It's getting, you want to try to keep things equal in spacing, just as far as later doing textures. So this is an excellent face right here, this square. It's very equilateral. I mean, it's not too elongated. Like down here, it's kind of elongated. So, you know, it's just nicer if you can get equilateral faces. When it comes to texturing, there'll be less stretching and less that you have to do with the texturing. So I'll probably end up rebuilding this again slightly, this upper piece, so I can kind of space it out, but we'll see. So right now I'm going to blow this away and this. And then I'm going to take these edges here and I'm going to go to the bridge tool and just bridge them. So I have that. And for something, you know, I need to retain this edge right here, this kind of where it's pinching in right there, but I don't need it to be tight right here. So I'll come back and I'll just break this whole piece off. But for now, I need to figure out, we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I have 4 edges here really. So only thing I'm gonna do is just kind of cut this like this, because these are equilateral right now, and just blow this one away. And then I'm gonna bridge these guys. So now we have this hand piece that goes on the hand in low poly, and it's encompassing the high poly, which is what you need to do. You have to, you know, I mean, you can now with Nanite in Unreal Engine, you can definitely do a lot. You can have a lot of polygons, but still it can cause issues with the scene. and the better you can make it low poly, the better. So you always want to try to go for that. So I'm going to finish this piece up, and got some other pieces to do after this. And if you're just coming in here, we're taking, I'll just kind of show it again. We've got this Stormtrooper here. It's going into a short film. The short film is going to be about Darth Vader, actually, which is right here. It's already been modeled. He hasn't been rigged yet, but he has been textured. And so, you know, he's close to being ready for Unreal and some motion capture. But right now we're just in the phase of blocking out assets and getting them where they need to be. And right at this point, the Stormtrooper, all the areas you see purple have already been done. So if I hide the high poly, you can see this is the low poly, and it's beautiful, nice and clean. Edges are they're at a good level. They're kind of medium level. They're not too low poly, and they're not too high poly. If you look at the high poly, they're just like blow your mind high poly. And this is coming from ZBrush, where it's just, you know, you work in millions of polygons, but you get this beautiful mesh in ZBrush, and you have to somehow translate that to low poly. So we end up projecting that. So getting into this hand piece here, I gotta finish that up. And I'm just gonna focus in on that. Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate. Kevin just said he's loving the stream. And yeah, if you guys haven't subscribed to my channel yet, definitely trying to build the channel. And I'm gonna be trying to squeeze this in my schedule. I'm always doing 3D modeling or some sort of 3D thing. So I'm trying to get it on a weekly basis. So I'll be definitely trying to get that schedule up for you guys. And just bear with me as I'm getting into the streaming world. But, you know, thanks for joining me. So getting back to here. Right now, let's take a look at the quad draw. And so if I was to take quad draw and just start to turn on my my smooth brush, and I just start smoothing, it just ruins everything. Yeah, it spaces everything out, but it's not keeping the geometry edges where we need them. So there's a little trick to that. And you can just take the sections you want and just split them. So right now I've taken these pieces and I've separated them, so this is its own piece. So now if I come back here, and what's going to happen is when I smooth these out, it should retain the edges for the most part. And you want to keep that silhouette. So so you can see how that works. And now, like, it's still lined up perfectly to these edges, which is great. But here, it needs to be cleaned up, and it needs to kind of be equaled out. So I'm just gonna manually move those, which is not a big deal, and come back and smooth it out like that. And it's really going to help in the texturing process. All right, so let me think here about this piece. I think another thing you can do too is you can kind of fake it a little bit, I guess. Like I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna separate this piece. Like these are all all kind of, they're not equal, and these are too close, and I want them all to be kind of equal. So I'm gonna separate this piece, and then if I use my smooth brush again, you can see that, yeah, that works pretty well. It keeps this edge, which is what we want, but the problem is, like, I want it to be smooth back here too. Like, I want it to be equilateral back here. And it is here and here, but it's not back here because it's retaining those edges. So a little trick is you can take the edge and then you can select the edge and just extrude it out. And I'm gonna just pull it out like that. And well, actually, you know, there's probably, you can do this method, which is where you start getting all these things. But a better method, come to think of it, is this. And I'm really into patch modeling, and which is just using NURBS and converting those NURBS surfaces into polygons. And so I'll take this edge and I'll use the convert tool and convert polygon edges to curves. And just for the sake of it, show my, I'm going to show my CVs, and then I'm just going to rebuild that real quick. So I'm going to go up to curve, rebuild. And I need to look at the spans. I need to know how many that is right now. And let's see, grab that. It's 13 spans, looks like. So I'm going to rebuild that to 13. And what it's going to do is space them out evenly, like that. So now you can just take this edge and just bring it out wherever. It doesn't, you just need to bring it out a little bit, and then you can loft it like that, and then convert it to polygons. And I like to use this tool, which, by the way, if you weren't here earlier, is there's this really amazing tool, and I don't remember the artist's name, but he created this tool. I highly recommend it if you use Marvelous. I think it's called the Marvelous Designer Retopo tool, and it's just got it's for Marvelous Retopo, but there's just things in here that I just find myself using instead of like going up to the menu, and I just don't want any more. I mean, look how many shelf buttons I have. So I just use this tool, which is a shelf button, and I convert this, so convert into poly from surface. So now it's a surface. It's no longer, or now it's it's polygons. It's no longer a surface. And so, I mean, it doesn't really matter to delete those edges, but now, like, if I take these polygons here, and let's see, are these polygons up here too? It's gonna kill my, I just deleted my history. All right, and so I'm gonna take these two and bring them together. And so now if I take these edges and then bridge them like that, it will give an equal spacing to them. Delete them, and then come back with the quad draw. But I have to grab that high poly mesh first and make it live. So come back with quad draw and watch this. It's going to retain, so these edges went to where they're supposed to be. So now look at that, beautiful, perfect. These edges are staying where they need to be. These edges are nice and equilateral back here. That's really nice. So you're left with this, which is nice and clean. Although this one, I should have moved this one over, but it's not a big, you can just move it over by hand. It's just one, but doing the whole thing is a lot. So I tend to do stuff like this. So now bring back this other surface, and it's basically done. I just need to extrude it out. So I'm just gonna get rid of these ones. And then bridge those. That. Cool. Yeah, this one, if you want to be super picky about it, you can just move it over. That. So now we've got that, the hand plate ready. I mean, if you want to take your normals and smooth them out now, you can kind of see what that looks like. And I'm sensing something is not connected here because there's a sharp edge right there. It's happening. Something got off. See, it should be smooth like this when I'm pressing 3 to take a look. So that's no problem. We can just take all these, pull them away, and then just go ahead and bring them together, soften the normals. Now they nice and clean. But there is something happening here. I think it's just not merged properly. Let's take a look. Maybe it's up here. You have to kind of hunt these things down sometimes. Oh, it's here. That's right. So I didn't merge these ones. So I'll just select them. Soften normals. And there it is. Nice and beautiful. And I'm not going to be softening the, you know, I'm not going to be smoothing this because it's going into Unreal Engine. It's not going to use any kind of smoothing under render time or anything like that. It's going to be under this medium level, and that's why you want to have, for the most part, a nice medium low density of polygons. So let's bring this back, and so now we just need to work on the thickness and then probably add some bevels on this, and then this piece will be done. So there's a little something that I need to worry about here, which is these edges. I'll show you one better view here. Take this piece, make it live. And so when I have these, I need to bring them down here. So I can't just extrude it out straight. So let me just take care of these ones first. Like this. And then this one is kind of tricky because this is now creating what you never want to happen, which is kind of an infinity loop. It just never, a loop should go all the way around and stop where it started. But infinity loops just keep going around. They just go around the whole model. And if I was to do that here, it's just going to be continuing. So I might need to think about I can add another division right here, which I guess would be fine. And then here and here. You just kind of have to figure that out, like what's going to ultimately work. It's pretty tight up here, but I think it will be fine. Just did all that work like smoothing things out, which is annoying, but it's not a big deal. And you know, I can actually just rebuild this really quickly too if I want. But before I do that, I'm gonna go and just kind of go around this thing to make sure there's no other areas that I should worry about. Let's try to figure that out. So that will be extruded out of there. Same thing over here. Well, what's interesting is that there's an extra. See, again, it would come around and then do that infinity thing again. So I need to terminate this somewhere. And I gotta think about that. I could just make this a triangle. I think it's not a big deal, but you don't want to do it right on the edge where there's going to be a curve happening. So yeah, I'm going to bring this down. Like this. I'm just holding tab, and while I'm in Quadron, you will pull down whole loop. And then here, I have to think, what the hell am I going to do with that piece on the end? Still kind of thinking about that. It could terminate somewhere under here too, but yeah, I'm going to come around here, and sometimes it helps just to kind of get everything else in order. And then it's the last one that you have to deal with. And it makes more sense, maybe. So for here, I'm going to just do that and then bring this out. Like that. Cool. Now, what to do with this guy? I want to be able to get bevels here. So what I'm going to do is something like that. And I should still be able to get a bevel going down this. I don't think I need a bevel going down this way, but I will need one going around here and around the edge on the bottom. Like this. And this is kind of funky right here. I may need to add, like, I may need to add a loop like this first. Like that. Because I don't want to interrupt that when that thing, when it's turning over. It just causes artifacts with normals. Nice. All right. So I'll just work on this back piece. Looks like I have some. I don't know what's going on over here. Huh. Okay. Strange. Seeing this kind of, I'm wondering if there's another piece of geometry down there, and it kind of looks like there is, which can cause what's called manifold geometry, like that. Yeah, that's what you don't want. So just kind of looks like this edge, for whatever reason, just got a little weird. I don't know about you guys, but for me, part of the fun of 3D modeling is the challenge. So it's like, how do you solve this problem? And so it should be gone at this point. And then show last hidden. Turn on quad draw. And we want to clean that up. Like this. All that work and trying to separate those. At least you know the trick now. But yeah, it's pretty often that I have to go back and fix something. It just happens all the time. I mean, even when I think that I'm ready for something, then I get into doing look dev and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to do this one thing. And then I come back and I have to do it again. It's kind of getting this to the best of what I think is going to work. And then here, do that. And I want to connect that there and bring that over here. And then I'm going to take this piece. Oops, doesn't look. Oh, need to. There we go. Take that. Make sure we're on the edge. And then this. Like that. So now I can just hold tab and bring those down. Anytime I can save myself some work, I will. And let's see if I can do this whole section. Yeah, bad. It's getting a little weird right here, but I'm just gonna go like this and oh wait, take that back. I have one more. That. Now I'm going to do that. So starting this out with the NURBs first and doing the patch modeling where I'm just using those NURB curves to handle that is just, it's a huge time saver. But then there's always these pushing and pulling of vertices that super time consuming. It just seems like you can never get around it, but just try to do your best to cut corners but still maintain a good job. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now I think what I'm gonna do is, let's see here. If I select this whole thing and try to push it down, sometimes it just freaks out. Yeah, this edge like went over. Trying to get all the edges to the very bottom so that I can just bring one final edge inside and then cap it. So I'm just going to go around some of these things like that. And then kill my history and select all of that. And I'm just going to extrude an edge, and then it's because I've got the live thing happening right now, I'm gonna just snap it like that. So now it's all right there like that. And voila. And then you can just cap it right here with the fill hole tool. So so now you can't see through it anymore. And I mean, because this is below his hand, I'm just gonna poke it. See how that works. It may not be a good idea, but it may turn out to be a very bad idea, actually. But I'm trying to avoid like going through and, you know, dividing this all up. Like that. Show last hidden. But I might just do a little bit. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know if that's really helping at all, but again, I don't think it's going to be too big of a problem. Just going to bring all these edges together. I mean, this is basically the same as poking it. What am I fooling myself here? So I'm just going to reverse that. And I guess we'll find out when we'll find out. And you have to test these things. So when I will do a piece and then I test it out in Marmoset to make sure that the normals are reading properly. You can test it out in various programs. I'm just going to test it on Marmoset. But you see how it's darkening on the edges here? It just doesn't have enough support, and you're getting kind of this triangulation here. It really affects the normals. So what I want to do is bevel those things. So I'm just going to go around and see the best way I can bevel this and maintain a nice edge going around. And I don't think I need a bevel here. I think it will be fine, but let me just double check. I think I'll just do this first bevel up here, and then I'll do the bevel down there. And I'm not gonna add any divisions. See how the blackness went away up at the top part? Now let's do the bottom. This is why it's good to make sure your geometry has nice clean edge loops. I was just able to select that and it went all the way around perfectly. And so I'm going to bevel that and then soften. And see, now it's much nicer. Some kind of faceting here, but I can go through and clean that up. This is an ingon here, so I don't want that. So I need to fix that. Make sure that. So an ingon is, for anybody who's not aware of that, is a polygon with more than 4 sides. And it causes problems a lot of times with other applications, creates artifacts, stuff like that. So I think that worked fine actually. And just having that supporting edge right there with this big poke here. And so it's called poking when you fill a hole, and this tool here is called the poke tool. So if you're not aware of that, and I'll just kind of clean up some of these things, but I honestly think it's fine. Oh, I do want to add some edge loops here. So kind of these main corners. I don't think I need them anywhere. Maybe here actually. No, I think I'm gonna leave it. So do those bevels. And I don't need that big of a fraction, so I'm gonna bring it down to maybe 0.4 or 0.3 and soften. See that? It's nice and smooth looking. And see, this is what I was talking about earlier. There can be some funkiness if you don't have enough supporting. And I don't think there's enough supporting here, but it may not be a problem. But you can kind of see there's this weird triangular thing happening right there. And it may not happen if you have an extra loop right here going around. But then you have to go through and do all that. So I'm going to just avoid that for now. I'm going to unlock all my normals, unlock all my normals, and then soften them. And then now, let me pull up. This is a very easy piece to UV map, but this is the UV editor for those who are not familiar with that. And this is taking your model and flattening it out in UV space, which is like X, Y, and Z space, but it's U and V. So, and I forgot which one is U and which one is V, but probably U and V instead of X and Y, or, you know, there's no Z. So right now it looks like a big hot mess. And so we're going to go ahead and clean that up. And because I have edge loops going around this thing all the way, it'll be easy just to cut it right down. Maybe I'll actually cut it down here. And so you don't see, there's a art in UV mapping, and it's such a boring process, but knowing where to put the UVs is an important thing. So right now what I'm going to do is just go to create and then go to camera base. I always start with camera based, and it just gives you this shot of whatever your camera was. And then now I'm going to select an edge, make sure it selects all the way around. I may even select this one. Yeah, because it's kind of under the, you know, under it, which will mean you won't see any UV seams. So I'm going to go to cut and cut. And just like that, I should have two different UV patches like that. Now I need to unfold them like that. And then I need to pack them. So I'm going to select that and go down to arrange and layout and go to layout. And you can have different settings with the layout. If you hold shift and hit this layout button, it'll bring out the options box. But for me, it's pretty much where I want it. I'm just going to do some manual changing here. And you can always see like where's what on this piece too. You just select here. And so it says, okay, these two areas are corresponding in 2D space. So if I want, I can bring this piece over here, and now it's more accurate. But honestly, I'm going to be redoing all these UVs anyway, but this is just to show, are the normals working? And so here's the UVs, they're good. And now it's just a matter of getting this into Marvelous real quick. And so let me just pull up that. 1 second. Where is my Marvelous? Here. And oh, I need to real quick export that out. So I'm going to export that low poly. You're not going to see that. And I'm just going to call it low. And then I'm going to, all I'm doing is selecting the low and exporting that out. And I'm selecting the high and I'm exporting that out as OBJ as well. So both of them are exported as OBJs. Nothing special. And so now in Marmoset, let's look at this piece. They should automatically come in here. Wherever it is, there it is. It's all the way where it is in the scene. So here it is in Marmoset. And we have a baker here. So you just go to the baker And you know, I imported my two pieces of geometry. I've got the high, and then I've got the low. The low is what you see here. So the high is right there, high, low. And I'm gonna go ahead and just clean up some of these materials. I'm gonna take the low and then select it, and then I'm gonna make sure and apply the default material to the low. And here I'm going to project the high to the low. And you know, cross your fingers and toes. I'm going to project it 4K, and let's see here. Need to make sure that I'm exporting this out properly. So I just need to name the asset real quick. And then I'm going to hit bake. And then in the surface section over here, I'm going to just choose my high poly, bake, and there it is. Look at that. It's got all the high poly detail, but it is a low poly mesh. And it looks pretty good, but I'm seeing some issues right here. And that could be because I need to increase the cage. So I'm going to go to the low and just going to turn off that. See, and that took care of it. Just like that. Good stuff. So now, make sure that's baked again, and that's good to go. So that part's done. We've got a low poly version. The bottom looks great, and it's beautiful. So now going back to Maya, but first I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break, and I'll be right back. So just bear with me. I'll be right back. All right, so back to it, and I just want to say thank you to Kevin C for giving me a follow on my YouTube channel, and feel free to give me a follow on Twitch as well. I'm also on Instagram, and I'll be doing a lot more of these live streams. So thanks so much, Kevin. Hope you're enjoying it. So we're done with this piece here, and we just need to move on to the next one, which is the kneecap part. So let's kind of organize this stuff a little bit better. Hide that high poly. I'm going to put this low poly and give it a proper material, which I'm using retopoed. You can see it's a purple material, and I'm going to put that on the retopoed layer over here. Got to select it, add to selected objects. Good stuff. So now if we show everything, let's get rid of Vader. I'm just going to clean up some of this stuff. Just hiding those things. Get rid of these curves. All right. And there it is. And because these are these parts are symmetrical, I don't have to worry about doing the other side. But something like this, it isn't symmetrical, so you have to make sure that those portions are where they should be. But like these leg pieces here and here, calf pieces, shoes, all that stuff, symmetrical. This belt is too. So let's move on to the knee cap area, which is this part here. If we look here, this part is nice and over that other high poly part. I'm going to build it similar to this piece up here, so just kind of take note. I'm talking to myself really. It's just I'm taking note of what I did here and do it on a smaller version here. I wish I could just scale this down and plop it right there, but I just feel like it's not going to work properly. And there's 4 here, and then there's 6 up here. So yeah, it doesn't work just scaling it down. It's also a different shape on the side. So that's okay. What I'm going to do is just start from scratch, but I'm taking note of like how was this low poly version done. And if I hide the all the other pieces, you can take a look. I've got two polygons here, and I've got 2 separating, and this little section up here, and then I've got bevels happening. And then that's just that is mirrored on the other side. And so really that's going to be the same for the smaller piece. Just kind of follow that format, and it should be pretty simple. And actually there's 5 pieces here. So for this one, it's not very big. I might just go quad draw straight on. Turn off these loops. Oh, I need to hide this piece so it's not. I'm going to press F to frame in. And then I've made this live right here just by going up, selecting it, and then hitting this little magnet. And now it's live. And I can use quad draw mode. So when something's live and you have the quad draw multi-tool here, you can hit the quad draw button and it goes into quad draw mode. And once you're on there, then you can start putting down points. So for this, I mean, you know, I said up there was 2 in between and then 2 here. It might be just 1. I mean, but I don't know. Let's give it a shot. I mean, we want to retain that curvature fidelity. So, but I do want to think of is this thing symmetrical? Let me just double check that real quick. I think it is, but if I was to take this thing and just put it at the 0 axis, where is that going to fall in the grid? Looking from this view, it looks pretty symmetrical, but I'm going to just look from the top. I'd say that's pretty darn symmetrical. So I'm just going to bring that. And you can work, and it's actually easier to work in the 0 space like that. But you just want to make sure that you, when you are done, that your other pieces are going to go back to these coordinates. You don't want to zero them out or clear out the transformations. So anyway, let's just do it here so I can mirror along the x-axis. And I'm going to get rid of the grid. Go up to Show, Grid, and Uncheck. Go to Quad Draw, and this is, again, my center piece here, so I'm going to start here. So I know that I want pieces like that going around. I think this will be a pretty quick piece. Mostly. But you never know. Yeah, and by the way, feel free to share the love on getting my channel out there. I don't really think there's a lot of I know I'm on Kevin's on found me on YouTube, but on Twitch I noticed there, at least I didn't see a lot of 3D channels or streams. So you know, just let people know there's one in town, and help build the channel. All right, so I've got these basic quads going here, and I'm going to do the same thing down here. Sometimes quad draw is just the fastest method. Something simple like this. Kind of laying out my points. Something like that. And in order for me to bridge these between here, I'm going to have to bring these in a little bit, because otherwise it will start to go up on top of those. And in order to get them to, you have to hold shift to try to bridge them together, but sometimes it doesn't work. This time it did work. Another method would be just create 2 points and then grab them, shift, left click, and then you can create your polygon, and then just drag these points, making sure that auto weld is on, and then now you can do that way too. So let's kind of bring these out a little bit. Nice. And I feel like I'm already like 80% through with this piece. I think it'll be a little, you know, I don't know if I want to honor this hole here. I could just fill it actually, which might not be a bad thing, except for that it's gonna, I could poke it, I guess, but yeah, it could cause problems because it's an in-gone. But let me see if I poke it, what it does. I think it's okay, actually. I think I'll do that. That way I don't have to worry about like extruding that, like making special geometry to go around this, and it'll be fine. Just do that. Cool. Because we want it to look like an indentation still, but yeah, it will all make sense once it comes together. So, all right, now we gotta figure out, okay, we've got this pretty much resolved. I mean, it's, you know, at this point, you just bring them up and you start bringing them through, and you want to have maybe 2 edge loops going through here, similar to the other part, the belt part. But this part over here, I'm gonna kind of work on this a little bit more. I think I'm gonna continue this edge, but it gets tricky right around here. But we'll see how I resolve that. Let's see, sometimes I just go for it. And I'm trying to keep somewhat equal distance. I mean, one of the advantages of keeping equal distance too, not just because of UV stuff, but let's say I have, you know, a piece here, an edge here and an edge here, and then, you know, all these other edges are pretty equilateral, but then I decide, you know, this will be better if it's actually slightly lower subdivision. So I say, okay, well, I'll hit the smooth tool, but look what happens here is like this becomes a point of like tension, and these other ones look great and nice and equilateral, but then we start getting elongated and tension elongated. And the more you do that, the higher up in divisions you go, the more tension that happens there. And it's just not, if you were to smooth that, it's just going to create a kink right there. See, it's kind of flat right here, and then it kinks right there. It's subtle, but it's noticeable, and you have to be kind of crazy about these things when you're building geometry, because they show up. And then you get some art director saying, what's this? And then you have to go rebuild it. So just, that's why, you know, taking care of it firsthand is better. All right, so continue on, quad draw tool, try to space these out somewhat equally. All right, and I'm not worried about the other side because, again, this is going to be mirrored over since this is a symmetrical piece. But now I want to think about it curving. So something like this might be okay. I don't even know if I need that extra curve there. It is noticeable, but I don't really, I guess I'll keep it, but I'll have to kind of break out here to something where it just starts to smooth out like this. And I think that'll be fine, but let me continue on here. So I've got 1, 2, 3. Let's start with 3. And then kind of figure out what else needs to come up here, because whatever divisions I do here matters for how much geometry I'll have there. So we're just trying to eyeball it right now. Maybe get this a little bit more. But when there comes a curve like this, sometimes you need more geometry. And so I might need more than just 2 edge loops through here. So now that we're kind of figuring out, well, look, you know, this right here is starting to be pretty faceted. If I continue to go, I've got quite a bit here. But it's better if I do this and this, right? And that. But now I have a lot more loops. But this is something to think about when you're doing the low division. How can it divide? If I was to use the smooth tool, it divides it by 2. And so if I keep this low poly like that, but then I divide, I take this and I divide it again. Now it's nice and smooth. So I'll keep it low like this, and then I'll potentially smooth it out there, but we'll see. Trying to keep this low as possible, but also keep edge fidelity. All right, so I'm going to start working on bridging this all together. Not worrying about any kind of bevels or anything right now. I'm just kind of boxing it in. And yeah, right here I'm holding shift trying to bridge these 2 pieces, but it's not doing it. So again, just like creating 2 points there, and then hold shift and left click so I can get this piece and then just bring it up here, snap it there. Like this. And see how I'm lining these edges right in the middle of those radii? It's gonna help when I bevel these things that they're right in the middle there. So you kind of try to get all these things right in the middle. So I'm just kind of working quickly and just jumping from area to area right now. But it's the same principle as what I just did on the other part right over here. So I'm just going to bridge that and bridge this and then delete that. And then now I'm going to fill this in, but it's not going to work, so I'm going to do that. A little method. Like so. Same thing here. Like that. Okay, and then last piece, and then we can start kind of figuring out how to deal with that end point there. So I'm just moving these into where they need to be. And then I'm going to block them in. I'll just add an edge loop temporarily to do this. And then there we go. Be sure to save. So now if I hold the, oops, grab the piece again. Now if I hold my control button, just that's all I'm doing is holding the control button, I can, while I'm in quad draw, I can lay down an edge loop. So I'm thinking probably maybe 4 different polygons here. Let's see. So that's going to give me, it's going to extend all the way here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think that should work actually. So now for this, I could go like this, and that's just a lot more button presses. So what I like to do is this, is I'll get these points up here, like this, and just go like that, and then this point here. Sometimes you have to move the angle, and then this, like that. So now I can just go ahead and put these points in, and they get a little messy, but that's fine. This. And so now I need to figure out what the hell am I going to do with this area. So I could just terminate it all like this and have triangles. Well, one triangle here, and this is a quad, which is nice, and that does kind of work out actually, because I can go like this and take these points and go like this, but it still doesn't resolve that. So let me figure this out. Let's see. Maybe if I delete this and go here. I got two triangles here. This. How am I liking this right here? It's okay right there. I guess that's fine. But it's still too faceted, I feel like. Let me take a look from a distance. Soften the normals. It looks bad because there's no bevels. Yeah, it's pretty faceted. Take a look at this one up here. Yeah, see, this one was a lot easier because I had an edge. It wasn't a radius. So I think what I'm going to do is divide this and watch what happens right over here. Nice and smooth. But it smooths out everything, so you kind of have to be aware of that. I've got some extra stuff happening here. I mean, it should be okay, but it is a lot more geometry, so I could potentially just get rid of this stuff. And where I don't know if I need one here. Could probably get away without using that one. But then you have to smooth all this stuff out, and you know, so yeah, choose your poison. I mean, you can just, it's not, this is, let's see, 352. It's going to be like 800 quads. But you could also minimize here and here. I think I'm just going to go through this and start to minimize some of this stuff. Like, it's not, I'm not seeing too much faceting here, but I also don't need this, I think. I probably don't need this and this. It's definitely better. It's still heavy over here, so let me see if I can do every other. And I start going this way and I start interfering with this. So I have to be kind of aware of that. So now I'm just starting to chip away the part that I spent time getting. And you can always do something like merging points together. What is it? I think it's like this, yeah. Like this. And merge them together, and then you're left with just one, and then make this is now a quad. But sometimes these kites create weird things. I think it's okay though. Yeah, I think it's working out okay. Well, you know, you always see when you're trying to bake in the normals, like if there's like weird stuff that's happening. But I'm just gonna give it a shot with these kites. And it's just, I mean, these are just kite shapes that are called kites. So let me try to obliviate these ones down here. And I want to keep what? Let's see. This one, I think. Let's see. So if I get rid of these. No, it's the opposite. It's these two. Yeah. And if I was to get rid of that. You know, I think that will be enough just with those. I don't know if I need to do two kites, but let me. I almost feel weird just having one up there. So. Select those points. Bring them together. That. I think that'll be fine, actually. Still retaining that curvature, but keeping low poly over here, which is great. All right, so I'm gonna delete the history, but right now, like, you're getting this weird stuff happening because of the normals. So gotta bring it back. And what I like to do is kind of piece by piece, like snap these to this high poly version. So I'm going to take this. Oops. Take these pieces. It's not going to let me. There we go. Take these pieces and just snap them. And I'm going to do the same thing with these. So I'm trying to snap them because this high res version is live right now, which means everything's riding on it, it's snapping to it. So show that again, and if I do that, we can see that it's now riding right on top of it. I'm just gonna go around and do these other two here. Take this. I'm going to do this last piece here. And snap. So now I'm going to take these pieces too and snap them. Hit D on my keyboard and then just touch one of the quads and then hit D again. And then it goes in and out of pivot mode basically. And do the same thing here. I'm just going to go around and kind of snap all these so that they're in the appropriate places. And that way, when I bevel these, they'll more or less be where they need to be. It's almost done. Earlier I was talking, oh, you know, this piece will be quick. Well, there's always something. And so now I'm gonna go on these 4 pieces here. Show less hidden. Hide unselected. So I'm just gonna take these pieces and snap. It looks like they're good already. Let's double check some of these. Yeah, it's good. All right, I think it's mostly good. So now I'm going to enter quad draw mode, and I want to make sure that these edges are kind of right around where they should be as far as where the radius is right in the center. Because when I bevel these, that's where the radius, or that's where the midpoint will be. Because if you bevel it first, then you've got all this geometry that you have to deal with. So just doing it in low res first is just a better way to go about it. Looking pretty good though. Kind of digging this music. It's very cinematic. It's part of the Streamlabs library, and I like it. Anything cinematic, I'm a sucker. Kind of reminds me of Robin Williams movie or something. All right, so we're good. I think all those things are where they should be. What I'm going to do is hit B on my keyboard. I'm just going to kind of smooth some of this stuff out a little bit, but not too much. Just a little bit. And then I'm going to, oops, go back into quad draw. Make sure auto weld is off. I'm going to hold B and left mouse to shrink that brush size. And just kind of push these in where they should be. And I'm holding the B button and shift to make it a bigger brush size now. And then I'm going to shrink it on down and hold shift. Remember those edges, those border edges stay where you leave them most of the time. Sometimes they move. But it's going to go through without my smooth on. I've got an extra edge here, I can tell. You can see there's something breaking happening. You can delete it, or you can just snap it here. It gets rid of it. I think that's all for those weird edges, but I'm also going to kind of make sure this is coming down. I think it's pretty much looking good. Okay, so now is the fun part, is adding some bevels. But before I do that, I'm going to take all these edges because this is symmetrical. I'm going to take all of these vertices right here. And you could do this by selecting edges or the vertices, but all these vertices, make sure nothing else beyond, you know, this edge is selected. And then I'm going to just go up into my X, Y, and Z coordinates, and I'm going to zero those out. And you'll see it move a little bit because now they're right where at the 0 coordinate. And now it's ready for being mirrored over. But before I do that, I'm going to just kind of correct some of these things that moved, but I'm not touching any of these. All right. I'm tempted to do the bevels now before I go into that mirror mode. So I'm just gonna select all the edges that I want to bevel, and again, it's similar to what I did before on the belt piece. Like that, and then select these edges. All right, rock on. So now I've got all these edges, and it's going to be doing something kind of weird. It's not going to know what to do with these points because it's trying to separate them. But I should be going all the way through, but I'm not going to. And I'm going to show you what happens. So I'm going to hit bevel, and so now I've got all these n-gons. Remember, a quad with more than 4 sides. That's not cool. So, but the bevel looks great. So I'm going to reverse that. And I'm kind of want to move this point real quick here. Actually, you know what? I'll do that later. So bevel. And then I want a bevel that's kind of small. It's encompassing, you know, this bevel right here mostly. I think that'll be okay. I guess I could do a little bit more. So I'm gonna go to my my channel box here, and I'm gonna go to the bevel, and what did I do? The fraction was like 3, 5. That's too much, I think. Let's say 4. which is what it was at, I think. All right, so now I need to just bring all these points together, basically, because it's okay to be triangles right here, but it's not okay to have n-gons. So I'm going to suck these 2 points because I want them to merge right in the middle, like that. And then I'm going to just pull this kind of somewhere in the middle. And just go around and do this for all these points. And you just kind of have to go piece by area by area. Oops, there we go. Select that one. This, that. Here, I'm just hitting G on my keyboard to repeat those actions. And I'll probably come around again and look, you know what, now that I think of it, this is incorrect. I'm gonna back up. And this is the beauty of 3D. Sometimes you see things way down the line and you're like, shoot, I should have done that. But I'm not too far down the line, so what I'm gonna do is just make sure to select that edge. I'm gonna go check all these other ones, make sure. All right. Bevel. Keep it at 4. Go back. Channel box fraction of 4. And now these are the ones I want to merge right here. There we go. Now it's working. Like this. Same thing here. Just kind of work our way down the line. All right, just come down here and do these ones. That. And I selected more than 2, and when you do that, you just have to change the threshold. And so I'm gonna middle mouse select and then drag, and then do these 3. That. All right, so those look good. Now let's just kind of double check it with the high res, and bring back quad draw. And look at my history, by the way, it's just huge. And sometimes, you know, I'll keep my history in there, and then when I need to go back on it, you know, splitting something or whatever input I need, I can just I can still go back to it. But it also bogs down your scene and can make your flow in Maya really slow. So you want to blow that out with clearing the history. Just, you know, edit and delete by type history. I've got a hotkey for that or a shelf button right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this live. Just select my thing here. Just kind of look at this, how it's doing. So I'm just gonna kind of move some of these things around. It's mostly where it needs to be. Mostly. You can see them kind of snapping because they moved away from the high res and they're snapping back into place. So all right, just going pretty quickly down the line on all this stuff, but I think it's coming out pretty good. Good stuff. And I'll likely need to fix those merged points because they probably moved. But I decided to do the bevel before. I'm just kind of going through some of these. I think that's good. This one could probably move it back a little bit. Cool. You're kind of trying to find like the medium between the high res and the low res. Like you should see the low res like right above the high res. So if I put this material on, it should be hovering right through like that, and you know it's right where it needs to be. Okay, so now we are good, and I'm gonna mirror this, but first let's move these edges to 0 like that. I'm gonna soften the normals, and now let's center the pivot in the scene, and then I'm gonna hold D and just snap with the V to that edge, and I'm gonna get back into my channel box, and let's see here, show all. I just want to make sure I'm not going to blow away any of my translations with this high res. Okay, cool. So the high res has got all the translation information, which is good. You definitely don't want to lose that. I mean, otherwise you just have to go place it again, and it's kind of annoying. So I'll show you how to send this piece, because once I mirror it over, you're gonna translations are gonna zero out. But I'll show you how to bring it back exactly where this is by parenting it. Okay, so let's bring this back. Hide unselected. Hide this piece. Got this right here. I'm gonna press Command D to duplicate, and now there's 2 of them. And then I'm gonna scale, and because we're along the x-axis right here, you can see down here the x-axis. So I'm going to scale on the x, -1. And so now I've got my perfectly mirrored copy over here. I'm going to combine them, and then I need to merge the vertices. So now they're merged, and there you are, like that. So I'm going to soften the normals. That's good. Now you probably noticed in a lot of in pretty much everything I've done, there's no thickness to this, and I leave it at that the whole time until the very end, when I've got all the normals where they need to be and all the geometry's been modeled appropriately, and then I create thickness and I deal with the normals at that time with the additional thickness part. But until then, I just work on, you know, paper thin pieces, and I'll add thickness later. And sometimes I don't add thickness at all, just depending on the piece and whether it's going to be seen. The thickness is going to be seen, but you know, for this I probably will add thickness. But anyway, I digress. So now I'm going to go ahead, and now this is zeroed out in the translations. If I want to bring it back to the knee, I cannot. And so like it needs to go up here, and I can take this piece, the high res piece, and bring it up there by zeroing those out. I'm just selecting those 3 and pressing 0, and it goes right where it needs to. But this piece I cannot. So if you parent the piece under here, so I'm just gonna take this piece here. Well, actually, I'm gonna take the high res first and find where the heck it is. It's way up here. And then you can do this. You can just select both pieces and press P. But you can also just take, this is the high res version, and this is the low res right here, high res. And then sometimes just pressing P is the better way to go, but here, and then I think it was this one. No. That one. Like that. So now you can see that wherever I move this high res one, that low res one goes along for the ride. So we're gonna zero it out. Now it goes right where it should be. Now I need to unparent that. So I'm just gonna, you can take it and just select it here or in the outliner, and then just hold Shift and P to unparent. Now you've got all these translations, and you just it just clears the translations. So now I need to make sure that the high res is projecting properly on the low res, but I need UVs for that. So I'm going to create quick UVs for this. I'm just going to hide everything but that low res and bring up the UV editor here. And so again, I just always just hit camera, and for this piece I could probably for now just unfold the whole thing, and it gives me this. It's not bad actually. I may keep that in the long run, but for now I'm just gonna keep it just for the sake of demoing or testing out the normals in Marvelous. So now we've got the normal or the UV map placed on here. I'm gonna save my scene. I'm gonna clear history. I'm gonna go to Marmoset real quick. And just 1 second. So I'm gonna pull up Marmoset in a second here. I have to export. Show loss hidden. Export the high. I'm just exporting the high and low. And in Marmoset it should come up now. Okay, good. There it is. So here's the low res here. And okay, low res, I'm gonna just make sure that this, and in this, I tend to just save over, like on my desktop, I have two files. One is called asset high, one is called asset low. You can see right here, asset high, asset low. And while I'm testing things out, I just export right over the other asset. So when I exported this out, the asset low, I exported it out right over the asset low of the hand piece I did before this. And that same thing with the asset high. So it just automatically went in right here, but the UVs are all messed up, or the normal bake. So I'm gonna just rebake, and it should lay right where it's supposed to. And it does, but I'm getting a little bit of weirdness, which could be something that's not cool, is that it's getting kind of stuck here with the camera. 1 second here. All right, so I think what needs to happen is I'm seeing some clipping right here. So I'm going to just kind of, again, bring that out. And it looks fine from there. So I'm gonna bake again. And that looks fine. It's just, for whatever reason, it's having a hard time. There we go. Yeah, that looks great. I think for that little knee piece, it's excellent. I mean, it's a pretty small piece. It's pretty far away. And if I toggle the light around, you can kind of see how it's hitting it. It's nice and beveled, nice smoothness to it. A little bit of faceting here, which I probably just need to snap these points here. So if I go to Maya real quick and turn off Marmoset, bring up Maya. I probably just need to snap the low to the high a little bit better. So I'm going to just quickly do that real quick. I mean, another thing you can do is select all of the verts. This is kind of, sometimes it can be not good, but select all the vertices, and what I do is I hold, I think it's shift, and then the greater than or less than key, and now I've gone in. So you can see like it was selecting everything, but by going in a row like this, if I move anything, that the edge is still going to stay where it needs to, which is really important, but all the other stuff will move when snapped. And I want to make sure when I'm doing that snapping that under the manipulation tool, the move tool, that closest point is selected. Otherwise it will just snap all over the place. So I'm just going to very, very lightly take this Z and move it. There we go. So it snapped. And that probably is better overall. So I'm going to export this out real quick. And 1 second. All right, so now back in Marmoset, it should come in. It's already should have come in, the new one. Not really seen a change here. Oh, okay. So I'm back in Maya, and I'm seeing, like, you can see kind of right here is flat, but here is kind of going in, and this is really where it's like fine details. You can see how it's flat here, but they're kind of going in right here, and it really makes a difference when you spend time to kind of just work those out a little bit better. Like that. It just looks much better. And so I spend a little bit of extra time getting those so they're not looking like they're kind of pointy. I have to see, it's just snapping all weird. So move that, move that, move this, and just kind of go around and just correct. Like, this is a mess, and some of this probably is just from what I just did from snapping everything, taking all those vertices. But I'm going to spend a little bit of time because it does affect the overall bake. But it's not a lot of time to just go around, and I mean, considering how much time it is to make this thing in the first place, I mean, this character takes a long time to make, like a high fidelity character. All right, I think that's good. Maybe right here a little bit more, but I'm just gonna call it. So I'm gonna export this out and bring it back in Marmoset. And we should see a little bit less of that kind of faceting, hopefully. So back in Marmoset. Yep, see right there, it's better. It's definitely better. And I'm gonna rebake. Definitely better. Still a little bit right here, but you know, it's not bad. You're not gonna be this close to it. So that's great. That piece is basically done. So go back to Maya. Bring that back up. Maya. Cool. All right. So probably gonna call it a night after this piece here, but I'm gonna just clean up the scene real quick and then go call it a night, basically. And then tomorrow I'm going to try to come back online around 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you want to join me then, please do so. And hopefully can finish up some of this stuff. I mean, it's really just at this point, like, I mean, this just has to be mirrored over, but there's like a little, this thing right here has to be done. I think that's basically it. And then this piece and the belt too. So there's a few extra pieces, but trying to want to put in about 2 to 3 hours of streaming. So, you know, be sure to catch me tomorrow, and I'll be doing some more streaming of these other parts. But I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for subscribing to my channel, liking, sharing, all of that jazz. It really means a lot to me. I'm trying to grow my channel, and thanks so much. I'll catch you tomorrow, and shout out to 2A Friend and Kevin C for chiming in, and thanks so much, guys. Take care.